we start innovating, let's take a quick step back and talk about what innovation is and why we do it. Now, there are many ways to define innovation, but there are two key features: something new and something that creates value. Innovation might be one of the most overused words of all time, and I'm sure you're familiar with many different types of innovation, from the iPhone to self-driving cars to see-through solar panels. We are surrounded by talk of innovation and what's next. The part of innovation that's often overlooked is the purpose. If innovation is really about solving problems and realizing new opportunities, what problems are we solving and for whom are we realizing new opportunities? This is where the study of social innovation comes in. For those of you that joined us on our Becoming a Changemaker course, you'll be familiar with the ideas around social and inclusive innovation. For those of you that haven't, feel free to check it out during or after this course. In social and inclusive innovation, we seek to solve problems that are relevant to people's livelihoods and quality of life, trying to make the world a more inclusive place. So where, you might be asking, does finance fit into this equation? Over the past few decades, new business models have emerged around social and environmental impact. We call social entrepreneurs people and companies that have blurred the line between nonprofit and for-profit. They have successfully changed the view of base of the pyramid from beneficiaries to consumers and producers. The problem is these business models have evolved faster than our funding approaches have. So in essence, we are constraining this 21st century approach to social change with a 20th century funding mindset. This is incredibly limiting. We don't expect the fast-growing companies of the 21st century to use the same models of delivery as their predecessors. Amazon doesn't have to build stores to be the largest bookseller in the world. And similarly, we can't expect our traditional structures of debt, equity, and grants to work effectively unless they are redesigned to address the needs of these innovative business models and the social and environmental outcomes they are working towards. There are 4 key issues with how the current financial models are failing to meet the needs of the impact marketplace. These are impact measurement, mismatch, distribution, and the innovation lifecycle. First up, impact measurement. One of the reasons that traditional funding structures don't work for impact is that they treat impact measurement as either a nice-to-have or a post-project calculation. If we want to make decisions in funding around social, environmental, and financial returns, we need similar amounts of data for each. This means that impact measurement needs to be a part of the strategy of the company, how capital is dispersed, and how it is priced. Next, mismatch. At the Bertha Center for Social Innovation at UCT's Graduate School of Business, we host dozens of events each year for hundreds of investors and entrepreneurs across Africa. The message from investors is always, there are not enough investable deals, while entrepreneurs are always complaining about the lack of capital available. So how can both of these be true? There is a mismatch in how investment-ready organizations are and what funders expect. There's a mismatch in what funders' return expectations are and the reality on the ground. And finally, there's a mismatch in the type of capital available and what fundies are looking for. We have observed that funders are generally focused on gazelles, the fast-growing, high-impact, highly scalable organizations run by social entrepreneurs who can deliver a slick presentation. However, much of the capital need is for oxen, the slow-growing companies that are in less sexy industries and run by entrepreneurs who understand their businesses but might not be able to clearly articulate it in industry speak. These oxen often require small amounts of debt capital instead of large equity investments. Distribution. If it is true that a large part of the capital market needs small amounts of capital instead of big investments, and many funders only have a few staff that sit miles, if not countries away, you can see how distribution of all that capital suddenly becomes a huge issue. And you have to think about how do you distribute small amounts of capital in an efficient way. Lifecycle support. Now, of course, the idea isn't always that all companies will need small amounts of capital. The goal is to scale effective approaches, and the issue of scale comes up continually in the innovative finance world. Lifecycle support is one of the things that is significantly missing from most markets. By this, I mean working with organizations from the early stage grants through to late stage investments, providing the type of capital they need at different stages of their growth. One example of a well-known financing gap in a company's life cycle is the missing middle. This is the point where companies are beyond friend and family funding, but too small for banks or venture capital. Lifecycle support does not have to be provided by one funder. Instead, it can be a coordinated effort on the part of multiple funders. Unfortunately, however, we don't see that type of coordination very often in the current market. One of the things that innovative finance does is make financing work towards social goals. The creation of microfinance is a great example. In the 1980s, when the Grameen Bank was founded by Muhammad Yunus, the concept of making tiny loans to poor people and expecting them to pay them back was thought to be a crazy idea. And yet, 30 years later, microfinance is estimated to be a $10 billion a year industry. Regardless of whether microfinance lived up to its original hype as far as impact, it opened up a whole new understanding of how finance could be adapted to suit individuals and organizations outside of the current banking system. Now, in this course, we're going to look at dozens of different types of innovative financing, like microcredit, that were created to solve social issues. So, if innovative finance is about addressing these issues, who is currently putting in the effort to do so? Innovative financing can come from a variety of different sources. Let's talk through them. First up, private investor capital. Some private investors are beginning to prioritize addressing social issues such as inequality and environmental issues such as climate change. We'll speak during this course about impact investing, which is investment that sets and measures social impact objectives. Public capital is also engaged. Many governments are working towards strategies that engage social enterprises and encourage private capital to invest in social impact. Development institutions are important players as well. Development institutions have investment and aid budgets as tools for development, and the mixing of these two different budgets can be quite powerful in innovative finance. Similarly, foundations have traditionally had two different types of capital: endowments and grants. The endowments have been invested for investment returns, often not connected to the mission of the foundation. But the global trend is moving towards mission-aligned endowments and sustainability in their grants, giving foundations tools for innovative finance. Corporates have historically said that the business of business is business, and have had small allocations towards CSR on the side. But companies large and small have recognized that sustainability is a key piece to their survival as resource constraints, climate change, and inequality are becoming economic issues for corporates as well as social ones. Finally, civil society. Traditional organizing patterns outside of formal institutions have power. Throughout this course, we'll look at how organized communities can play a key role in addressing their own social and environmental objectives. Now that we know why we are innovating and who our potential partners are, let's look at some of the theme areas that present significant opportunities for innovation around financing.